Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's External Affairs Minister holds talks on Chabahar Port and International North-South Transport Corridor with Iran's Minister of Roads and Urban Development in Tehran. The World Economic Forum kicks off in Davos, putting an end to ongoing conflicts in West Asia and Ukraine top its agenda. And Taiwan loses another ally. The Pacific island of Nauru cuts ties, decides to establish diplomatic relations with China instead. India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar is on a two-day visit to Iran. Minister Jaishankar held talks with Iran's Minister of Roads and Urban Development in Tehran. The ministers had a detailed discussion on the establishment of a long-term cooperation framework on Chabahar Port. Their talks also covered the International North-South Transport Corridor. The 54th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum begins in Davos. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, French President Emmanuel Macron, and key West Asian leaders will attend the 54th annual gathering. Putting an end to the ongoing conflicts in West Asia and Ukraine tops the agenda. A challenging global economic picture with shifting interest rate policies and rising debt will also confront central bankers, financiers, and business leaders who will be attending the meeting. Meanwhile, the Kremlin on Monday said that the talks in Davos on Ukraine's peace proposals will achieve nothing as Russia was not participating in the discussions. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that the process cannot be aimed at achieving any specific results since Moscow is absent from Davos. Meanwhile, Ukraine said that it will not rest until every Russian soldier is ejected from its territory. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has decreed that talks with Russia were illegal. And DD India's Megumi Lim has more from Kyiv. Take a listen.
The conflict in the Middle East continues, so this is another opportunity for Zelensky to keep the spotlight on Ukraine and convince world leaders and Ukraine's international partners that Ukraine deserves continued backing from its partners and continued funding and support as the fighting is continuing along the front lines in the south and in the east, although it has largely turned positional and static. This forum comes against the backdrop of, as we understand, continued divisions in the United States over continued funding for Ukraine, and also as the EU has failed to push through its 50 billion euros of funding that it was planning to send to Ukraine over a 4-year period after it failed to get a unanimous vote during the last EU summit. And Ukraine is running out of ammunition and even interceptor missiles. The Pentagon recently said that it will struggle to continue providing interceptor missiles for Ukraine's air defense systems. And we have noticed here that the interception rate has gone down in recent days as Russia continues to launch air attacks against Ukraine. And we have also seen the Institute of the Study of War release a report that Russia is preparing for a renewed offensive, waiting for the grounds to freeze over in the south and in the east, even as Ukraine continues to face shortages of ammunition. So it is of utmost importance for Zelensky to continue to try and shore up more support from its international partners.
In the unfolding Russia-Ukraine conflict, the Kremlin, in a statement on Monday, asserted that discussions on Ukraine's peace proposals at Davos will be futile without Russia's involvement. On the same day, Ukraine reported the downing of a Russian A-50 spy plane and command aircraft in the Sea of Azov region. Ukraine expressed its commitment to removing every Russian soldier from its territory. Zelensky deemed talks with Russia illegal, while Russia rejected his peace formula for excluding its participation. The United Nations and its partners appealed for a combined $4.2 billion from donors to support war-ravaged communities in Ukraine as well as Ukrainian refugees in 2024. The UN Refugee Agency is seeking $1.1 billion to support 2.3 million Ukrainian refugees and their host communities.
We're asking for just over $1 billion, basically $1.1 billion. I recall that last year we asked for 1.7. Clearly, more people are included, more people work, there is less, needs are diminishing, and governments and the European Commission are doing a lot, so there is less need for us and our partners. But still, in all countries, especially Moldova, but also in other countries, there is a need to do work.
Right, moving on, Americans will vote for the first time in the 2024 election Monday in the Iowa caucuses, which will help determine the Republican presidential nominee, with former President Donald Trump widely expected to cement his frontrunner status, while Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley fight for second place, and sub-zero temperatures could dampen the turnout though. Trump is the overwhelming favorite to push past his rivals and stake an early claim to the Republican presidential nomination. A closely watched Des Moines Register and NBC News poll released at the weekend showed Trump had the support of just under half of likely Iowa caucus goers, followed by his former UN ambassador Nikki Haley with 20% and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis with 16%. Biotech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy trailed in a distant fourth place with 8%. The UK is committing 20,000 military personnel to serve across Europe in a major NATO exercise in the first half of this year. The UK Defence Ministry said that the deployment includes an aircraft strike group and F-35B Lightning attack jets, surveillance planes and 16,000 UK Army troops who will be based in Eastern Europe from February to June. Last week, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced that the UK will increase its support for Ukraine in the next financial year to $3.19 billion, an increase of £200 million over the previous 2 years.
Now, our trade, 90% of which comes by sea, is the target of terrorists, proving that not only do our adversaries have the intent to target us, but they have a widening array of weapons with which to wreak havoc. And that's why I can announce today the UK will be sending some 20,000 personnel to lead one of NATO's largest deployments since the end of the Cold War.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is set to address British lawmakers for the first time since the country joined the US strikes on Houthi targets in Yemen. The opposition lawmakers have criticized the Prime Minister for authorizing these strikes without prior consultation. But Defense Secretary Grant Shapps defended the decision by citing self-defense.
Life is a dreadful tragedy, and everyone...
Monday is day 101 of the Israel-Hamas conflict. Hamas aired a video allegedly showing the Israeli hostages it's holding in Gaza. For its part, Israel's army released a video of its forces operating in Khan Yunis in the southern Gaza Strip and uncovering mortars and other munitions.
As Israel marked 100 days since the October 7 attack, Hamas on Monday released a video showing 3 Israeli hostages that they are holding in Gaza. The 37-second video ended with an electronically generated caption, "Tomorrow will inform you of their fate." Thousands of Israelis continue to call for the immediate release of hostages. Despite pouring rain, families of hostages were joined by thousands in a 24-hour-long rally that ended on Sunday night in a Tel Aviv plaza.
This was crime against humanity, not crimes against Israel. It was committed against Israeli, American, German, French. It doesn't matter. They didn't stop and ask who you are and where you live. So yes, I want to say to the leaders of the world, this is your responsibility too, to make sure they're coming back home, all 136 people.
Meanwhile, on Sunday, Israeli army released a video which it says shows its forces operating in the southern Gaza Strip of Khan Yunis and uncovering mortars and other munitions. The video shows gun battles and explosions, as well as soldiers entering buildings through holes in the exterior walls of the building. Relatives and friends of German nationals kidnapped by Hamas militants marched through the center of Berlin to mark 100 days of their captivity.
I want to say that it's been 100 days today. And time, we don't have a lot of time at all. Time is running out. And I feel that we need to do something now.
Meanwhile, Israel launched strikes on Hezbollah targets in Lebanon after a guided missile launched from the other side killed a woman and her son in a village in northern Israel. Earlier, the Israeli military said that they killed 4 heavily armed terrorists trying to enter from Lebanon.
All right, shifting focus to the Indo-Pacific now. Taiwan's President-elect Lai Ching-te told a visiting delegation of former U.S. officials that he hoped Washington, D.C. would continue to support Taipei. He said he will continue to defend peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait.
I hope the United States can continue to support Taiwan and deepen cooperation between the United States and Taiwan for our mutual benefit, for the safety and prosperity of the region. We are thankful for the United States' long-term support of Taiwan. I believe our relationship will advance in a stable direction through our continuous hard work and become an important force to safeguard the peace and prosperity of the Indo-Pacific.
Meanwhile, Taiwan has hailed its close and staunch partnership with the United States. President Tsai Ing-wen said this as she welcomed a delegation sent by U.S. President Joe Biden's government to make a post-election visit to the island. Taiwan has broken its official diplomatic relations with the Pacific island nation of Nauru. Taiwan's move came after Nauru said it will sever diplomatic relations with Taiwan and recognize China instead.
In order to maintain our sovereignty and dignity, we have decided from this very day to end diplomatic relations with Nauru, halt bilateral plans for cooperation, withdraw the embassy and repatriate technical personnel, and will demand for Nauru to shut its embassy in Taiwan. Just as many democratic countries around the world congratulate Taiwan's victory in democracy by successfully holding an election, Beijing authorities decided to suppress Taiwan in this manner and launched an attack on international order and stability. This is revenge on the value of democracy and also a challenge against the global order. China has been deliberately trying to lure our diplomatic allies over the years.
In more news from the Indo-Pacific, North Korea tested a new solid-fuel hypersonic missile with an intermediate range. It said the launch was aimed at testing the reliability of new multi-stage high-thrust solid-fuel engines and an intermediate-range hypersonic maneuverable controlled warhead. The test coincided with North Korean Foreign Minister Choi Soon-hoi's visit to Russia. The missile launch and visit to Russia come amid growing tensions on the Korean peninsula. A series of intercontinental ballistic missile launches, the launch of a first military spy satellite, and Pyongyang's deepening ties with Moscow have all worried the U.S. and its allies.
Our military instantly spotted and monitored North Korea's missile launch and closely shared related information with the United States and Japan. We strongly condemn the North Korea's missile launch, which is a clear provocation that seriously threatens the peace and stability on the Korean peninsula.
Newly appointed Bangladesh Foreign Minister Hassan Mahmood said that India stood with Bangladesh when Bangladesh was in pursuit to continue the democratic process. The Bangladesh Foreign Minister Hassan Mahmood also said that despite external attempts to stir controversy During the elections of 2014 and 2018, India's support for Bangladesh's democratic process was unwavering. Meanwhile, the foreign minister also revealed plans for his first bilateral visit to India after accepting an invitation from his Indian counterpart, Dr. S. Jaishankar. The Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh, Pranay Verma, called on the Bangladesh foreign minister on Monday. Verma said Bangladesh and India will be achieving greater momentum in its bilateral relations, building on the existing friendly ties. And now take a look at some more stories making news around the world. About 18 million individuals, constituting 40% of Sudan's overall populace, urgently require food aid due to the persistent 10-month conflict, as disclosed by a representative from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations on Sunday. The humanitarian conditions in the country are steadily worsening. The rare white whale was spotted approximately 5.6 miles south of Coral Island, a part of the Phuket province. The first living Omuraz whale was seen in the wild in 2015, but this is the first known sighting of what could be an albino of this species of Thailand. A heartwarming story of a man jailed for wearing a tie has become the first Armenian film to make it onto the Oscars shortlist in the international feature category. Shot in Armenia with a mostly local cast and crew, Amerikatsi is also an attempt to rebuild the country's film industry. Still to come on DD India Live. Microsoft tops Apple to become the world's largest company by market capitalization. And in tennis, Tsitsipas, Medvedev and Goff all advance at the Australian Open.
From the banks of River Saryu, we bring for you the special stories from the streets of holy city Ayodhya Dham, the land of Ram, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. As a consecration of Ram Temple at Ayodhya draws near, take a look at how artisans came together for the construction of the temple and how the dream came true for a person after 34 years. Anita Raj reports.
Ayodhya is getting ready for its big day, the inauguration of Ram Mandir. Anticipation for the Pran Pratishtha ceremony is buzzing around. But the beautifully carved stones installed in the temple of Lord Sri Ram have been carved in Ayodhya for years, and this work is being looked after by an 84-year-old Anubhai Somapura of Ahmedabad. Anubhai Somapura, a master stone carver and supervisor of Sri Ram Mandir Nirman workshop, had a dream of Ram Temple from 1990. He always hoped that the Ram Temple would be built one day. With this hope, he has been monitoring the work of stone carving for years.
I came from Ahmedabad at the age of 45 years and now I am 84 years old. Never thought that we would witness this moment.
Anubhai Somapura came from western part of India's Ahmedabad, Gujarat in the year 1990 with the dream of Ram Temple in Ayodhya. He recounted that when he asked the artisans to come along, no one came with him. Now, more and more artisans are coming up from different parts of the country.
The number of the artisans growing up, the stone also came from Rajasthan. The age of these stones installed in the temple is thousands years old, and the carving on the stones are all done by hands.
With just over a week left for the grand ceremonial opening of Ram Temple in Ayodhya, the city is being given a transformative makeover. Anita Raj, DD India.
The Indian Army celebrated the 76th Army Day with a grand parade at Lucknow, the capital of the northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, on Monday. Indian Army Chief General Manoj Pandey inspected the parade. Lucknow hosted only the second Army Day outside the country's capital, New Delhi, to commemorate Field Marshal K.M. Cariappa becoming the first Indian Commander-in-Chief of independent India. The parade witnessed 6 marching contingents and a military band comprising 5 regimental brass bands and 3 pipe bands. Artificial intelligence is being used to judge the best contingents.
उत्तरी सीमाओं पर हमारी सेना किसी भी स्थिति से निपटने के लिए पूरी तरह तैयार और सक्षम है। उत्तरी सीमाओं पर अपनी क्षमता को विकास करने के लिए हमने कई ठोस कदम उठाए हैं। हाल ही में इमरजेंसी प्रोक्योरमेंट के प्रावधानों के जरिए हमने कई आधुनिक उपकरणों की आपूर्ति की है, जिसमें नीश टेक्नोलॉजी के लैस अस्त्र शस्त्र भी शामिल हैं। सीमा क्षेत्रों में क्रिटिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को विकसित करने की दिशा में खास ध्यान दिया गया है और इसमें अच्छी प्रगति भी हुई है।
Tech giant Microsoft eclipsed Apple to become the world's largest company by market capitalization, driven by its deep focus on generative artificial intelligence, a sector that's garnered increasing investor favor. Now, Microsoft, which along with Nvidia and Amazon placed a significant emphasis on AI, has experienced substantial market surges over the past year. Notably, Microsoft's market value has risen by over $1 trillion. According to LSEG data, Microsoft's market cap stood at $2.887 trillion, its highest ever, while Apple's market cap was $2.875 trillion as of Friday's close, after peaking at $3.081 trillion on the 14th of December. To sports now. In Day 2's action at the Australian Open, Coco Gauff calmed her opening round nerves to beat Slovakia's Anna Karolina Schmidlova 6-3, 6-0 on Monday. The 4th seed Gauff took some time to find her groove on serve after making some adjustments ahead of the new season. Gauff traded breaks freely with Schmidlova after her opening service game, but settled into a stride to produce a late hold and wrap up the first set. The 19-year-old stepped up a few gears in the next set. A former French Open runner-up, Gauff was barely troubled from there as she served out the match, finishing it off with a neat backhand winner to set up a meeting with fellow American Caroline Dolehide in round 2. Russia's 3rd seed Daniil Medvedev survived a scare as he fought back from a set down before his opponent Terence Atmane quit in tears because of cramp in the Australian Open's first round. Atmane won the opening set before Medvedev, runner-up in 2021 and 2022, turned the match around. Medvedev led 5-7, 6-2, 6-4, 1-0 when the Frenchman was forced to retire. And Stefanos Tsitsipas was slow out of the blocks, but he quickly adjusted to accelerate to a win against Belgian Zizou Bergs. Last year's finalists struggled to find any rhythm in the first set on a sun-baked Rod Laver arena, falling behind to the energetic Bergs, who was aiming to earn his maiden major win. The Greek earned a 5-7, 6-1, 6-1, 6-3 win to reach the second round in Melbourne for the 6th straight year. The Board of Control for Cricket in India has invited applications for the national selectors position, leading to speculation over the fall guy from the existing full 5-member committee. 25th January is the last day for submission of applications from candidates who have played 7 tests and 30 first-class games, or 10 ODIs and 20 first-class matches. The candidate should also have retired at least 5 years ago. No member who has been part of any cricket committee for a total of 5 years shall be eligible for the role. Interestingly, the notice does not mention any age cap. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. All of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.